Hi everybody, I'm Noémi from the Simple Begiknits podcast, and this is my first podcast episode. So a little bit about me. I am from Montreal, Quebec, but I currently live in Northern Ontario in the city of Timmins, where it is so cold. Today is a beautiful minus 20 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but trust me when I say it is freezing. So what better place to be in to start a craft like knitting and crocheting? My goal for this podcast is to talk to you about techniques that are new to me and how beginner friendly they are, and to hear from you and what you've been working on lately, and we can all hopefully communicate on what we've tried recently, how it went, and give each other tips and tricks. I've created this podcast because I've found there are so many wonderful yarn podcasts, like knitting podcasts to listen to, but not many of them I felt like were from beginners. And so I just thought I could make my own little niche where I could find my people, my new to knitting people, where we can talk about all our mistakes, because goodness knows there are so many. But yeah, so we can jump into it together. We'll start with what I'm wearing today. I am wearing the Happy Cardigan by Wool and the Gang. I knit this up in August and September of this year. And it is made out of their Feeling Good yarn in the color Blonde Beige. It is so soft. I wear this cardigan all the time. And so what was new to me in this cardigan, you can see it is a raglan construction. So this was my first time knitting anything with a raglan construction. It was knit in panels, you can see, with the seams. And it was my first time making ribbing all along the edge, picking up all along the edge. I've picked up stitches just around to make collars before, but not all along this, which was really hard to finagle, but worked out fine. Mistakes, things I could improve on for this piece, I'll show you right here. Is it on this side? Well, you can see here the stitching. Oh yeah. Doesn't quite align. It doesn't line up very well, and it's a little bit wonky on the side. This side is not, no, it's still not great. I thought I made it up on the other side, but apparently I didn't. So that was one pretty big mistake. However, it's not too noticeable, right? My arms are covering it most of the time. Mistake number 2, the sleeves are not long enough. You can tell, yeah. So maybe with some blocking, I would be able to get that a little bit more to the fit that I would like. But again, not too bad, especially for a first ever cardigan. Not too bad. It could be worse. It's still wearable. It definitely looks homemade, but it's still wearable. And finally, I wouldn't quite call this a mistake, but I haven't sewn the buttons on quite yet. I've got some buttons for it. However, I'm not 100% happy with how they would look on the finished object. So far, it has no buttons. But I'm hoping to find something cute. I'm just not quite sure what I want. I've kind of hesitated between some like tonal, like pearlescent kind of beige buttons. I think that would be really cute, or maybe some wood buttons, but then I'm worried it would be too rustic. Anyway, I'm not sure. If you have any suggestions, feel free to write them down below. And yeah, so that's it for what I'm wearing. We can go on to my finished objects. So these are, since it is my first podcast, I have knitted objects that go back from this summer. I've also included some crocheted objects. With my latest finished object, we have the No Frills sweater. I knit this for my son, which is why it is so teeny tiny. He is 3 years old, and I knit this in the Drops Sky yarn in colorway number 6, which I believe is the sea green color. It's a nice bluish, like turquoise kind of color, and it has some gray throughout. Lots of dimensions. It's mostly alpaca with a bit of wool and some nylon. It's one of those blown wool type of yarns. So soft. It's going to be so nice on his delicate skin. I hope he enjoys wearing it. And yeah, so what was new to me in the construction of this sweater, you can see it's another raglan. What was new to me was the German short rows. And overall, I think that it went pretty well. My only qualm, and it filled out a little bit during the blocking process, thank goodness. But you can see here, yeah, right where the turns are, left little holes along the collar. So hopefully it's not too noticeable when he's wearing it. Otherwise, what's the other, oh yeah. So here, to join the yarn, I decided to do the spit splice method, and I think a problem with this, I've done it before and it worked out fine. I was working double strands, and so maybe it was just a little too thick for how, I guess, fine the work is, but we can tell here, yeah, where the yarn was joined, the knit stitch is a little bit bulkier than I would like. So if and it sticks out a little bit on the inside. So if I pull a little bit on it, it kind of fits in a little better, but you can still tell. But thankfully it's on the back side of the sweater, so, you know, not as noticeable as if it were right up front. But noted for next time that I work with this yarn, because I will definitely work with this yarn again. It has been such a pleasure. It was so soft. Yeah. And finally, the last mistake for this sweater is probably the most important one. I cast off way too tightly. Now I cast off in a regular ribbing cast off, but you see, it doesn't give it too much stretch. So I'm definitely going to have to undo this cast off and redo it. Not sure how, not sure which cast off method will be best suited for this. So I'll have to do a little bit more research into it. But otherwise, I'm really happy with how this piece turned out. And when I finished knitting it, I thought it looked a little wonky. My stitches were definitely not as neat as I'd wanted them to be. But once I blocked it, it all evened out. It looks like one smooth, cohesive piece. Really cute. And yeah, should be cute. Should be good for Christmas. Should be nice and warm, nice and cozy. I really hope he likes it. Moving on. And this is the first garment and the only garment that I've ever crocheted. So a little bit of background on how I started knitting. I first started with crochet when I was pregnant with my son. He was gifted some beautiful, beautiful crocheted blankets, and they quickly became his favorite blankets, which meant that they got a lot of wear and a little bit of tear, and I had no idea how to mend them. I do a little bit of sewing, but I've never worked with crocheting or knitting before, so I figured, well, what a better time to learn than now. So I taught myself how to crochet so I could mend his blankets. And after, crocheting for a few months, I started enjoying it and looking out for more patterns. I noticed that patterns that were compelling to me for garments were knitted patterns. So then I figured, well, what the hey, we're already here. Let's learn how to knit. And 6 months in, and here I am with a couple of finished objects, and I've got more to go. So that's how I started. So this was the first garment that I've ever crocheted. And I call it my COVID sweater. I knitted during the summer in the month of June. Yeah, in the month of June, and my husband and I were isolating. We had gone to an event and unfortunately got COVID from it. So this is how I used up all that isolation time. I made the Malibu Sweater by Wool and the Gang, and this is made up in their Shiny Happy Cotton. These are the shades that are, I don't know if I would say recommended, but they're the shades that are on their sweater when you look at the photos online. I love this sweater. I love the look of this sweater. It is so cute with some flared jeans. It just gives me such a 70s vibe. It has a bit of a like boat neck opening. The sleeves are pretty wide and a little bit flared. It's just so sweet. I absolutely love it. It is great for like cooler summer nights or some warmer fall and like spring days. It just brings in a lot of color and joy in my wardrobe. And yeah, so now move on to the mistakes I made on this sweater. There are quite a few. I don't know if it's my gauge or maybe I just measured myself wrong and made the wrong size, but this sweater is, as you can tell, like massive. It is a huge, and it is meant to be a little bit oversized, but I'm going to have to fix the neckline a little bit and just bring it in maybe an inch on each side because it almost falls off my shoulders. I almost wear it as a drop shoulder sometimes. Yeah, it is just very, very wide. The sleeves are really long, and I do a lot of cooking, so it is not a shirt to be wearing when you're cooking because you have like those dangly sleeves. Yeah, not ideal for cooking, that's for sure. But so that's one thing. I've made it a little too big. So if I were to make it again, I would make it a size smaller. Now, I don't think I would make this again. As cute as it is and as comfy as it is, my one issue, and I don't know if this is, it's very likely to be a user error. I don't know if what I did wrong, if it was the way I weaved in my ends, if I didn't do long enough strands of weaving in or whatever. It's just, I don't know if you can tell. Yeah, you can definitely tell. Every color change, which is every row, where I've weaved in the ends, I've only worn this a handful of times and the ends are already starting to poke out. It's really frustrating. So I've cut them back a few times. I've tried to weave them back in, but every time I wear it, I guess it's just with the friction, maybe my stitches are too loose. The ends keep popping back out, which is kind of annoying, but not too big of a deal. So yeah, those are my mistakes that I've made in the Malibu sweater. Overall, not too bad. It's definitely, it looks like a first, like a first FO, and it is. And I'll love it for it forever, but it could be a little neater, a little tighter. So we'll see. Maybe I'll feel like making another one and fixing my past mistakes. Moving on to the third finished object. We have the Amanda sweater, which is again another Wool and the Gang. You'll see as a bit of a pattern in this video. Got quite a bit of Wool and the Gang objects and yarns, and I think that's just because they're so beginner friendly. And when I first started venturing into this craft, they just made it so accessible, you know, where you can order your kits, it comes with a pattern and a yarn, you can order your needles with it, your crochet hooks. It was just so convenient. Yeah, great place to look at. And I believe We Are Knitters also is similar type of company where you can just, you can buy the yarns and you can buy your notions individually, but you can also get it all in kits. And I think more and more yarn stores are doing that as well. I don't know if they always did it because I'm so new to this world, so I'm sorry if I get this wrong. But I've seen a bunch of local yarn stores that do carry kits now, which is so great. Obviously not as much inventory, but if you're looking to encourage local businesses, I would encourage you to look into your local yarn store and ask if they have any kits that you can do. Tangent aside, let's get back to this sweater. So this is the Amanda sweater, and I believe this is the front. I should probably put a tag in it. I knit this in the Crazy Sexy wool in the color Mineral Pink. I don't think the camera is, no, the camera won't pick it up, but it's a dusty pink weaved in with a bunch of colors. So when you look closely, you can basically see the rainbow in this yarn. We've got some like indigos, some nice purples, a bit of ochre, orangey tones. Yeah, it's just a really, really fun yarn, and it adds a nice interest when you look into it. So this is the first sweater that I've ever knit, and it was a super chunky sweater, so very quick to whip up, and it is in a moss stitch, which was a good way to familiarize myself with knits and purls. Also, this was done in panels and then sewn together at the end, so it is a drop, it is a drop shoulder construction. So I believe, let me see, you know what, I think it's just all blended together. I think I picked up for the sleeves, I can't remember. Anyway, it was really quick. I think I whipped it up in about 2 days. And it is just so cozy, it is so squishy, it's so thick. It is just perfect for these days like today where it's -20 and you just cannot be bothered to go outside, but if you have to, this is a must. Now, for mistakes in this sweater, not too bad. I was able to line up the sides pretty well. One thing that I liked with the moss stitch is for my stitching, because of the way the stitch works together, it's almost like you can't tell where the stitching is unless you're really looking for it. But see, I think the seam is like right here. You can barely tell. So that's really great. It's a really fun way to introduce sewing your panels together without having to worry about parts lining up, like in this cardigan, for example, where it's a lot more noticeable. However, speaking of stitching, the way this was constructed, the neck wasn't knit in the round. The stitches were picked up, and at the end, I had to sew the neck end together. Now, I think I could probably unpick this. Yeah, I think I could undo, like just frock it back a couple of rows and get rid of the ribbing at the neck and redo it in the round, because my problem now, as you can tell, this edge really sticks out because it's so thick on the inside with the seam. It just makes it really bulky. So when I'm wearing it, it's not as noticeable because it's laying on my neck like this, rather than having it like essentially folded over like I'm holding it. But still, it does stick out pretty straight over here, whereas this side lays really nicely. So that's one thing I could do differently. But I mean, for now, for a first knit garment, I'd say it's okay. All right, and now with the last FO, which is a little bit of an asterisk, I made the Oh So Quiet blanket, and this is a crochet piece. Again, another pattern by Wool and the Gang. Just have a sip. Another pattern by Wool and the Gang. Super quick, super easy. This is a perfect project to have while you're just watching something and you need to do something and move your hands mindlessly. It is super easy. It is knit again in the Crazy Sexy wool. This one I believe is in the color Bordeaux, and I say this one because it is my 6th one. I originally crocheted this blanket in I believe it was in summer, which is an odd time to be crocheting such a heavy blanket, but I crocheted it for myself, and I absolutely loved it. And I thought, man, what a great gift, because it's 100% wool, it's homemade, it's so cozy, and we live, our entire family's in Canada, where it is cold about half of the year. So it's just super handy to have blankets around all the time and just cuddle up. So I made one for my mother-in-law in color Heritage Green, and she loved it so much, and the rest of her family complimented it and absolutely loved it. So I figured, well, I'm just gonna make them for everybody for Christmas. So this year for Christmas, we're spending the holidays with my husband's family in Southern Ontario, and I made blankets for everybody, so one for each household. So this one will be going to my husband's cousin and her fiance. We have one in the dusty denim color for his grandparents, one in a terracotta color for his aunt and uncle, and last one is in Heritage Green again for his sister. So I really hope that they all love it so much, and that, you know, it brings them joy, because it was so much fun crocheting it for them, knowing that it'll be so special. And yeah, so hopefully it's a hit at Christmas. But that being said, I am so ready to move on from blankets, especially this pattern. It was just very simple, which is not a problem at all. It was great to just practice on your tension, and, you know, but I am ready for something a bit more challenging, especially after doing 6 of them. I am done with this blanket. I just want to make something a bit more complicated, you know? I want to keep learning, I want to keep growing, and yeah, that's all I have to say for that. All right, so what do we have next? Oh, yes, so for my work in progress, I've got another Christmas present. This time it's for my husband, and I am making him, this is only a part of it, but I'm making, you guessed it, another Wool in the Gang pattern. This is the My Guy sweater, and well, this is a sleeve for the My Guy sweater, and I've already knit the body. This is the left sleeve that I've made. It's almost done. I probably have about half an hour of work left on this, and then I'll be able to knit up the second sleeve and sew it all together, add the neckline, and be done. It is knit in Wool in the Gang's The One Merino. It's 100% superwash merino in color Heritage Green, because we love that color. And yeah, it's just a beautiful, like, ribbed sweater, and it is just so stretchy. It's so stretchy. I can't believe it. But it's really cozy, really soft, and I think he's going to love it, and he's gonna look great in this color. Now, my one complaint, and I'm not sure how I would fix this. Oh hi, my cat. So the body is knit in a 6.5 millimeter needle, and the ribbing is knit in a 3.5 millimeter needle. But when we move on from the cuff to the rest and do the decreases are pretty noticeable. And so I've got it along this cuff, and along the bottom ribbing for the body. And I'm hoping that blocking will be able to solve the world's problems. Wouldn't that be nice? But yeah, that's my only complaint about that. I don't know how else to fix it. I tried to be super mindful of it, but it still showed up pretty prominently along the edge of the ribbing where it meets the rest of the body. Right. And yeah, sorry if I'm looking over here all the time, it's because I have all my setup for my whips and acquisitions, and I'm just trying to keep focus on what's coming up next. All right, next up. Hi, Shelly. Next up, we've got the Cumulus Tee by Petite Knit. So I am really not far along. I think I started this in September, actually, but Christmas was coming along and I knew I had a lot of other works to do, so I just put it down and haven't gone back to it in a while. But I am knitting this in We Are Knitters, the cotton. It's 100% Pima cotton, and this cotton is just so soft. It has this kind of, not luster, but a bit of a sheen to it, which is just so lovely, and it's almost silky. Yeah, so this is their natural color. It's pretty nice, pretty plain. Perfect, like everyday tee to go with everything. Shelly. She's just a curious cat today. Yeah, so I'm excited to get more of this done. I'll probably bring this down with me for the holidays to keep working on it. I gotta say, I have no motivation to work on this right now. Not only with all the Christmas whips that I had going on in the last few months, but it's just so cold. It's so cold that I don't feel like wearing a t-shirt, and so I don't feel like working on a t-shirt because I know I'm not going to be wearing this right away, but I guess I could wear it with my cardigan or something, but yeah, it's been hard to find the motivation to pick this up, so hopefully that comes up soon. And another thing, I know that stockinette tends to roll, but this is a little intense. And I don't know if it's because of the thickness of the fabric. I'm not using the recommended yarn. I think this was, I think she knitted in the Knitting for Olive Pure Silk, which is much, much finer yarn. But I did a gauge swatch with the cotton and, knit accordingly to how many stitches I should be doing and, figure that out. But yeah, so I don't know if the thickness of it is what is not helping for the roll up, but hopefully with blocking and with the I-cord edging, it'll stay up and it won't be rolling down my back. So yeah, that's it for the Cumulus Tee. I do really love the look of this pattern, and I did order some more yarns from Hello Stella Yarn. She's a local dyer, local to me, and she's in Hamilton, Ontario. And check out her stuff. She has the most beautiful shades of light pinks, just right up my alley. And I'm really excited to be getting that yarn and hopefully maybe knitting it in a warmer yarn. I forgot to mention the yarn I ordered from her is in 100% merino. So hopefully maybe having it in a warmer yarn will make me want to knit it a bit more. I don't know, maybe that's just wishful thinking. But I wouldn't mind having more of these in my wardrobe. I think this is more of a, what's it called, process versus project. Yeah, I think this is more of a project knit than a process knit. It's okay, it's fine. It's just mostly stockinette in the round. I'm not quite in the round yet. I'm not there at all. But once I finish with the neckline, I'll be working in the round. So, pretty easy, mindless, just go, go, go. But like I said before, I'm just looking to do more. I'm looking to learn. I'm looking to find out more techniques. So this isn't quite scratching that itch for me, but I am excited to have this in my wardrobe. And yeah, so that's my Cumulus Tee coming on. Next up, we've got acquisitions. This is so exciting for me. And I think this is a big part of why I've been so slow maybe on working on some of my projects. It's just, I got a lot of yarn. I went a little cuckoo crazy and I bought so much yarn. And I have the yarn and patterns purchased and just waiting for me to pick them up. But I've been resisting the urge to start a bunch of new whips so that I can focus on the ones that needed to be done for Christmas that had a deadline. But I've just always had these, you know, patterns in the back of my mind, just like, please start the whip. And so it's been really hard to motivate myself to do all the Christmas knitting and the stuff the whips that I already had going on. But anyway, enough of that. So first up in my acquisitions, I'm just so excited. This is the Dream Acres alpaca yarn. And so what's special about this yarn to me is it is from a local alpaca farm in Timmins, Ontario. And it's just so lovely. It's so soft. I cannot stop touching this. So I've visited that farm a few times, and I recently took my son there for our Christmas photos. They had a cute little setup with Santa Claus and alpacas. We got to feed the alpacas and pet them, and of course I couldn't leave without buying some of their yarn. So they shear their alpacas themselves, and they send the wool to local mills, and they get that yarn processed, they get the wool processed, turned into yarn, ship it back there. And at their farm, they also weave and knit a bunch of objects that you can buy at their store. So I have a couple pairs of their socks and their mittens. I believe I have a hat as well. And my husband's got some socks. One year for Christmas, we gave a bunch of pairs of socks to everybody from this farm. And yeah, so this yarn is 85% alpaca and 15% silk. So you can just imagine how soft it is. I cannot stop touching. It's naturally colored. It's undyed. So this is the color of the alpacas that we got it from. And on their little tags, I don't know if you'll be able to see, they list which alpacas they're from. So this yarn comes from 4 different alpacas. We've got Jetta, Luna, Max, and Zara. It's a sport weight yarn. So I've gotten 4 skeins of this yarn. And my plan for it is to make the Terrazzo Slipover by Petite Knit. I just think it would be the most luxurious fabric to have close to the body on your neck like that. Oh, it would just be so cute and so darling, and it would just look so nice. Yeah, so I think that's the plan for this one. I might have to cast this on before I get going on my Cumulisti again. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe. Otherwise, we've got. This is going to be for a summer project, so I don't plan on using this anytime soon. But I got a couple skeins of the Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the color Ice Blue. It's so nice. So my plan for this yarn is to knit the Cami number 7 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. And I've seen Emily, that's her name, Emily from High Fiber Knits. Wonderful podcast, highly recommend it. It's just so soothing, and I love her process. And she's just really inspiring, you know. She has a couple of videos on patterns that aren't from all the big brands and patterns that are more inclusive, and it's just really lovely to listen to her and to get more ideas on you know, different patterns that are out of the mainstream realm. So Emily from High Fiber Knits has knit Cami number 7, and it is just so darling, and I know she speaks highly of it, and every time I see it in her videos, I just cannot wait to cast on my own. However, I feel like if I cast this on, I'm going to come into the same issue that I came into with the Cumulisti, that I'm not going to want to work on this. Not in this weather, not when I know I'm not going to be wearing this anytime soon. So this is probably going to be on my needles in the springtime, closer to summer. Yeah, but I'm really excited to work on it. Afterwards, we have, oh, this is exciting. I'm so excited for this one. Next up, I have Emilia et Philomène yarn in Josephine in the color Brume Lavande. This is a yarn that is hand-dyed in Orford, Quebec, and I bought it at the wonderful Espace Tricot in Montreal. Love that store, love their podcast, highly recommend their patterns. They're so wonderful and they're free, which is perfect. So I bought this yarn and this yarn at their store. This is the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in the color Dusty Rose. So I will be holding these together to knit the Ozetta, I think it's Moonlight Sweater. I'll have everything written down below. Terrible memory, but I'm so excited for it. I already wound up 2 of these together to make one giant ball. And the camera won't do it justice, of course, but this yarn is just so beautiful. It's in this, so squishy. It's in this super squishy, like lavendery gray shade, and it's just so beautiful. Like, it's just a nice neutral purple that I feel will be able to go with mostly anything. However, I do love my pinks, and I think that the combination of these two together, where this is still a very dusty type of like mauve, like pink, it'll just bring a little bit more of that feminine energy to this grayish purple and just make it a little bit more delicate. You know what I mean? Anyway, we can't really see it on camera on this ball, but it is just so beautiful. And I'm so excited to cast that on. Maybe this is what I'm gonna cast. Oh, I don't know. I don't know what I want to cast on next. Maybe I'm gonna cast everything on. But I'm really excited to have this sweater. It's going to be so darling. And yeah, so I think that concludes everything for today. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for spending your precious time with me. And I hope to hear from you. If you have any recommendations on what I could do better, what I can try next time, please let me know. I am so very new at this. Like I said, less than a year old knitter. So I'm looking forward to hearing from every one of you on how I can fix mistakes and hopefully grow and become a more proficient knitter. And such a vast knowledgeable community that I'm sure I have so much to gain from being in. So thank you for welcoming me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.